Fellow teachers of Reddit, what experiences have you had with dumb parents? I had a 5th grader blow up on me, shouting and screaming in the hallway. This was sort of the final straw for him. He had a long history of verbal abuse of staff in the school, and he was suspended for 6 days. State law allows the parents to have an informal meeting with the teacher and the principal of the school. Mom and dad come into this meeting with myself, the principal and the guidance counselor. Principal introduces everyone. Mom interrupts saying she has a major concern that needs to be addressed immediately. She accused the principal of being an impostor and demanded that everyone in the room take out their driver's licenses to prove that we are who we say we are. We all refused and she battled about this for 10 or so minutes. Over the course of the next 45 minutes she ranted about how the principal was an imposter, and that this imposter principal, myself and the superintendent were involved in a conspiracy to remove her son from the school. I think I could expose this to our cringe. I knew it. You're all working together. Teachers everywhere are in some big conspiracy to fail 5th graders. How dare you not take out your driver's license to prove your identity? I teach 11th grade. 1. Sat in an IEP, special ed, meeting. The parents wanted all of these accommodations for the student even though we kept bringing up his daily weed habit. The accommodations still got on the plan with a promise from him to cut back. 2. Parents asking us how to parent their child. He gets upset when I take his Xbox. 3. A kid kept forgetting his backpack. I asked him if he had his cell phone or shoes. Obviously he did. So I told him to put those items in his backpack when he gets home. His mom thought I was a genius. 4. One parent was exasperated that their child with ADHD wasn't doing college level work. 5. 2 minutes into a phone conference with a mom, she compared her son with her other kids and lamented that her son wasn't as good at school as they were. 6. This is the saddest. I have a deaf student. On parent-teacher night the student's parents come to my class with her. I quickly deduced that the mom and the dad do not know sign language. We talked about her progress and her wanting to go into medicine. I had to convince the dad she was capable. He kept talking her down and demanding she speak. This is a majority of my parent interactions. I would say 1/3 are normal but yield no change. My mother is a K-12 teacher for a charter school that does homeschooling with a teacher checking in and reviewing things about once a week. It's meant for students who have difficulty in the public school system, which can range from dropouts to super smart kids to non-English speakers, and parents who don't have the time to do full homeschool. I used to help with grading the math and science stuff, so I have tons of stories. One parent during the school year kept taking her daughter on trips to different countries, and then asking my mother to extend her work. We're talking about 5 or 6 trips during the year. That would be fine if it was laid out at the start of the school year, and they could schedule accordingly. But this parent would make these trips spontaneously, like, in a few days, we're going to Russia, so she can't meet you next week like we scheduled 2 days ago. Another parent really pissed off my mother. 2 kids, brothers, both seniors almost done with high school. All that was left was some sort of state testing done in a classroom. One brother shows up, the other isn't there. My mom, proctor for the exam, asks where his brother is. He replies, he didn't feel like coming. She tells him that this is all he needs to graduate, so text him and get him to come here. He doesn't show. Halfway through the test, the kid's mother storms in the door, yelling at my own mother, telling her off for making her son feel ashamed and humiliated. She flips a table over, no joke, grabs her son that's there, who looked like he wanted to die. Keep in mind, he is a senior, like 17 years old or so, and storms out the door. Both brothers fail to get their HS degree, as neither had completed the state test. The crazy mom then writes a scathing email to my mother's supervisor, talking about how she had been lying to her, disregarding her problems and her children's education, and attempting to sabotage their chance at graduation. I have more, may post them up later if anyone is interested. Not me, but a situation that happened in my school. We get a new student the last week of May with only 4 weeks of school left. In this school year, this student has only attended 1/2 weeks of school due to school anxiety. He has a whole team of professionals, his mother, and a one-on-one aide that work with him. This is also his 3rd school, kicked out of his 2 previous ones, and he is in 2nd grade. He had a generally good first day, fist bumped his teacher, did a little bit of stuff, then went home and told his mother that it was the worst day in his life. Mum comes to school all up in arms about how we're ruining her precious little snowflake. The next day, his classroom teacher tried to get him to do some writing with her. The kid looks straight in her eyes and says, "My mother said I don't have to do anything. Are you calling my mother a liar?" Cue mother the next day, all up in arms, because the teacher called my precious snowflake a liar. So, due to his school anxiety, he doesn't have to do any work, interact with teachers, make any movement whatsoever except sit like a lump in his seat. The teacher, when giving an assignment to the class, has to specify to him but you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. It's by far the stupidest situation I've ever witnessed. TLDR. Second grader who is professionally advised to not do any work at school because of batshit crazy mother. I hope he fails. Yeah, kid, you do the work if you want, but no work equals 0%. I don't want to call any parents dumb. In my experience, they're mostly doing the best they can for their kids, even if that best isn't what we'd hope for. However, I did have a student who came to my student teaching classroom 2 grades below reading level, and similarly behind in other subjects. She really wanted to learn, but she had some cognitive issues that didn't qualify her for special ed but meant that she required a lot of time and personal attention to learn well. For that entire school year, I worked individually with her before and after school, while she was waiting for the bus or after she'd been dropped off, and often during her recess and art gym library, which she asked me to do because she wanted to learn and wanted the one-on-one attention. She improved markedly in reading and in writing, which is what we were concentrating on. She wasn't caught up at the end of the year, but she was a heck of a lot closer. She failed the year, but because she had a speech issue, her parents could decide to send her to the next grade anyway. I tried to convince her parents that she should be held back a year, because with another year of intensive help, which I was going to find a way to secure for her, I thought that she could be close to or on grade level, and could possibly keep up with the other students after that. They refused because they didn't want the other students to make fun of her. I have no idea what happened after that because I moved to another state, but I bet it wasn't good. I used to work at a daycare for kids aged 18 months 3 years. There was one little 3-year-old boy that used to call all the teachers stupid B and C. He also had extreme anger problems that led to violence towards the other kids. He would often hit, kick, spit and choke out other kids. Despite this, he could be the absolutely sweetest boy and craved being held by teachers and one-on-one time where he could get full undivided attention. We all dedicated ourselves to making sure we gave him special time to work on these issues. His dad was in jail and he would often talk about how scared he was to be put in prison and other issues at home. We discussed this with the mom and asked her to help with his anger by helping him find other ways of expressing it, as well as work on his swearing. All she said was she tries to work on his swearing but he sees it on TV and she can't help that, and that he inherited his anger issues from his dad, who was both verbally and physically abusive towards her, hence why he was in jail. It was so frustrating to work with a woman who didn't think she could control what her 3-year-old son watched on TV, and was resigned to believing her son's anger could not be controlled because of his dad. As a 3-year-old, he was mirroring actions he had seen, and she didn't understand that by teaching the child proper behavior and outlets for his anger it would drastically improve. Once dad got out of jail, she pulled her son from school and moved to another state with the guy. I worked for a while as the assistant band director at a private high school, and one night after a football game the director and myself were sitting in his office talking. One of the members of the band booster organization came in and closed the door and asked to talk with us. We agreed and gave him our full attention. He then explained how he had a marvelous plan that would help recruit for the band, which was to fix the election for homecoming queen. He told us that we could send mailers to every senior male. Only seniors males got to vote for homecoming queen, encouraging them to vote for one specific band girl, chosen by the band director, of course, and also some kind of incentive such as coupons or monetary contribution. The band director and myself shared puzzled looks over his incredibly thought out plan on how to fix the homecoming queen race. He was convinced that through this, we would raise awareness of the band program and then our numbers would skyrocket. We didn't tell him no, but we didn't tell him yes. Instead we told him we would think about it, and he left the office. After he left, the band director looked at me and said, "What the frick? Number." My mom teaches early childhood education. Basically 5-6-year-olds. One of them had major signs of autism. My mom said it seemed like it, and after reading several books on the subject, I thought so too. This also helped spawn my idea for an autism-friendly restaurant, but we'll talk about that later. Primarily, he had the basic signs such as a lack of imagination, social skills, and he never ate anything other than a PB&J sandwich. He would scream if offered otherwise. He also always had to be on a schedule. Since I walked to that school from my school, I always played with him. We would go to the unused library and play piano. I taught him to play songs like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. He loved it. He would tell me he loved piano. We decided to let his parents know. They denied it all. So my mom decided to bring the school in, had him observed. Sure enough, the psychologist agreed with us. He is in first grade now. It's my most heartwarming memory I have. I saw him at Walmart. He took me to the toy section, found one of those demo pianos, and played Mary Had a Little Lamb. His parents bought him a toy piano and showed him how to read the music. He is getting treatment now. I'm crying while writing this. I miss your little bro. As for my idea, it'd just be a colorful restaurant. Simple food, friendly people, same waitresses, etc. TLDR. Taught autistic kid to play piano and excels ahead of his class. May skip a grade. Dude, the restaurant idea sounds great, honestly. As for the parents, they need to be more open-minded. Think of all the kids with mental issues that get little to no treatment for things they need help with. The kid sounds really cool. Not real names. My mom is K and the other teacher is A. My mom told me when I asked her the question. It was her first year teaching 5th grade, and she gave her kids a spelling test. She caught a student cheating on that test by changing his answers after grading and insisting it was there before, despite eraser marks, and decided to talk to the student and the parents. My mom is really laid back and often would give her students second chances that the other teachers, who are all stricter than her, would not give. So anyways, my mom calls the parents and says, "Hi Mr. Smith. I'm calling to inform you I caught your son cheating on a test. Since this is his first time, I will allow him to retake it tomorrow during recess in my class." The dad was furious. He started yelling that his son would never do such a thing and how my mom was a horrible teacher and started cussing her out. So my mother asked another teacher who had been teaching for a while for help. The other teacher decided to get the principal involved and show the dad how his tantrums will not get him what he wants in this school and how his childish actions make it worse for his son. The principal called the dad and said, "Hello Mr. Smith. Due to your disapproval of K's teachings and punishments, we feel it would be best for your son to go to Mrs. A's class instead." The dad, thinking he got his way, agreed. What the dad did not know was that the son's new teacher was the strictest in the school and was infamous among the kids. So the boy switched classes, but he was in tears because my mom was the kind of teacher who gave out prizes and never yelled, and now he was leaving that class. The son actually was okay with taking the retake, but the dad was the one who refused. My mom felt pretty bad for the kid. After the end of the day, the teacher comes up to my mom and tells her what she told the father. The teacher called and informed the father that the son will get a 0 on the test he took in my mom's class, will not be getting a retake, and that the son will have no recess for 2 weeks. And the next day, guess who called asking to have their kid put back in my mom's class? The dad probably learned his lesson, and the son probably did too. My mom is a staff assistant at a middle-income elementary school, so she sees things coming from all over the spectrum. Unfortunately, the dumb parent experience comes from a woman who raises her children as if they are all to grow up to become drug lords and pimps and take out the system or whatever. Anyways, her 7-year-old daughter is probably the most vile little girl you could imagine, and most of her vocabulary comes from the bottom-feeding perspective that her mother perpetuates. The only problem is that there is no way to punish this girl for her obscenities, because she has already been expelled from 2 schools, so the one she is at now is her only option. The child also cannot be suspended because it's entirely inefficient. because she will come back and brag to the staff at school that her mother took her out to ice cream or whatever. I would say the nail in the coffin for this girl would be her mother's enabling tendencies, because she frequently and randomly comes into school insisting that the mostly white administrators are part of some conspiracy to hold down minority students, because this girl is part of a smaller demographic in our area. I'm not a teacher. However, I witnessed a crazy parent while I was in the office during my senior year of high school. I managed to frick up my leg during gym class and couldn't walk properly. So while I waited for my mom to pick me up, I was in the office, stuck in a chair with an ice pack on my leg. About 10 minutes into my waiting, an angry woman comes storming into the office. It was only myself and front desk lady in there, with the principal, dean, and guidance counselor in their separate offices. Anyways, this lady just starts screaming at the lady at the desk, who has no control over anything other than answering phones and issuing lunch tickets. I want to know why my daughter is failing 3 of her classes. Fix it now, you stupid fat cow, the angry mother screamed at this poor, innocent lady at the desk. Naturally, all 3 of the big guys come out of their offices, each of them trying hard to usher into an office. Any office. Crazy mom wasn't having it and demanded to know why her daughter was failing. Of course, no one had an idea who her daughter was because no names were given. After 5 minutes of the crazy mom screaming at the 3 big guys, they finally got a name of her daughter. The teachers who led the classes this girl was failing was called out of their rooms. Luckily, 2 had free period at the time, so only 1 had to have their class covered. The daughter was pulled into the office as all crazy mom was finally ushered into the meeting room with the 3 teachers and dean and guidance counselor. They shut the door, so I didn't get to hear anything else other than a few more shrieks from the crazy mom. I was picked up shortly after that and told my mom all about it. I had to thank my mom for not being a crazy person, but then again, I wasn't failing any of my classes. Not a teacher, but my teacher and I were both chewed out by a new kid's parents in 6th grade. So this new person joined in the middle of the school year. The kid had good grades, so my teacher instructed I pass my comprehensive class notes. I was first in class, to him, so that the kid could keep a copy and catch up. His parents came to my home, took the notes, while rudely imposing themselves on my parents and making mean comments about our home. We live in subsidized government accommodation. My parents were too polite to say anything, so they handed my books over to them and kept quiet. 2 weeks later, and my books haven't been returned. I keep telling the teacher, and she sends notes home. This was back in the 90s, but to no avail. Finally, the parents come to school one day and fling my notebooks at my teacher. They call me out and be at me too, saying I was an uncooperative, low-class person for not helping their son. They screamed at the teacher for favoritism. She held 2 tests which I topped, and their kid got only a few marks less, and that she had a plan to reduce her son's grades. The mother shook the teacher, and the father came and slapped me hard. I was dumbfounded. Luckily the other teachers heard the commotion and came swooping in. By the end of the day, the kid was expelled and his father reported to the police by the school. TLDR, new kid's parents attack and physically assault teacher and me because they believe the teacher is playing favorites. I was at in a 3rd grade classroom. We had the parents of an African American child request to meet with us at the start of the year. They informed us they did not want their son to learn anything about African American history. Nothing. They did not want him to learn about slavery, the Civil War, civil rights, MLK, nada. They felt this knowledge would hinder him in life and hold him back from reaching his full potential. The teacher and I were shocked but had to do as the parents wished. That February we studied African American history as men in school in the US do. Each time we had a lesson we had to send that boy to the library to read for 45 minutes. We couldn't tell him why or what we were doing in the classroom without him. We couldn't display any of our books or projects in the classroom in case he saw them. It was so weird and the poor kid felt so left out. I don't know whatever happened to him. He's probably in 8th or 9th grade now and for all I know still has no clue about Martin Luther King Jr. This was at a magnet elementary school with a predominantly African American and Hispanic student base. The boy in question appeared normal despite whatever his parents were teaching him or neglecting to teach him at home. He had many friends, was extremely polite, and was crazy about Batman, so I'm assuming he saw some television. We had many other African American students in our classroom, majority of the students in fact, and they were so excited come February. I mention the month because February is African American History Month in the US, and when most schools concentrate on it, they were begging to do biographies on famous African Americans. We couldn't display any of their posters though in case the one boy saw them. I worked in a classroom where the teacher was out for several months on maternity leave. One of the kids was a brilliant, hyperactive girl who would do well if she could just be a bit more self-disciplined. So we worked on it for about 6 weeks. She was getting so much better. Her social interaction with the rest of the class was great. Her classmates saw her as a horrible nuisance at first, and came to see her as the funny, smart, and caring girl she was. She was much happier because her work was getting high scores and she was getting the attention she craved and privileges that went with being a high-working student. It was all roses and sunshine in the classroom. Then she came in one day with the longest face and told me her parents were getting divorced. She still did well, but was understandably not the perky girl we were used to in the class. Her mom came in and told the school that the classroom was causing her daughter to be depressed. There was an assessment given by the girl's grandmother, who did classroom assessments before she retired, so my student did not act the way she normally does. The assessment was given at the busiest, rowdiest time in our day, and I was told by the powers that be that I need to stop working with the student on her behavior, because it was what the mother wanted. There was a weekly review so they could make sure I was abiding by the decision, so I stopped. It's not like I lacked students who could benefit with the extra help that the mother didn't want. By the end of my time in the classroom, we lost all the ground we had covered. I'm pretty sure the mom was the reason why the teacher had been letting the girl do whatever she felt like in the class, and I wish I'd got a heads up before jumping into it. In my first year of teaching, I was taking my class of 5-year-old children on a mosque visit as part of their religious education lessons. So the letter for parents, asking for permission, goes out on Thursday and I get the inevitable Islamophobic backlash from the xenophobic parents the next day. One of the kids in my class grandfather decided to come right up to me and rant about how to him, all religion is poison and his grandson doesn't have the capacity yet to understand what faith is. Fun fact. He had no issue when his grandson was the angel Gabriel in our nativity. Now, I've never seen this guy in my life, he's never come and picked up his grandson before, so this was the first impression I was getting of him. Despite me repeatedly telling him that I don't plan the trips, pick the curriculum or even teach Ray as that was taught by my cover teacher, he goes on and on and on, trying to justify his racist views, then comes up with this gem. For the sake of reference here, I am white British. Him. May I ask what your religious beliefs are? Me. You may not. Him. See. That makes me think you're Muslim. His ludicrous, presumptive logic almost tipped me over the edge there and then, but I held my tongue. After he finally stormed off, the child in question's mother, who was standing off to the side at this point, said, "I'm so ashamed," but nothing else. No apology, nothing. Oh, she was a police community support officer at the time, too. Fast forward 2 years, and this kid who, at the time, was higher to middle ability level in the academic subjects, is now in the bottom 6 or so across the board. He has probably made about half a year progress in 2 years. I have to wonder how much of this is due to his home life. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.